Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Alex Brandon here, and we are on a muggy morning. It's Wednesday, the 15th of January, 2020. Got some birds singing, but it might rain today, but I thought I'd have a cigar and discuss a few things. So today, we have the Davidoff Oscuro Oro. This has been reviewed by a lot of people, and this is not a review. This is more subjects of game audio, but we're combining things today. So, is that going to focus? We got focus stuff going on. All right. I want to give my adoring fan base an update on what's going on, as well as a couple of things that have been on my mind. Hardware and software and the kind of work that I do, and arcades versus home video game playing. So, with that in mind, as Brian Glenn from Cigar Obsession says, let's get it cut up, start toasting. You're supposed to toast the foot of a guitar. You're supposed to toast the foot of a cigar first, then light it. Yeah, don't hold it too close to the flame. Make sure the entire foot is toasted, and then I still think there's kids waiting at the bus stop. That's the noises that you hear. And the dogs, they're going to be barking. So get used to it. It's kind of neat. I can tell whether the whole foot's toasted or not. There we go. Should be fine. All right. I'm pairing this with a LaCroix so that I can not have the flavors interrupted. So for those of you that haven't seen my videos on cigars, it's an interest of mine. That's a once-a-week activity at most. Mild flavor. As a lot of Davidoffs tend to be mild. This is supposed to be more full in flavor, though. Davidoff is the favorite cigar of Gordon Gekko in the movie Wall Street, with a soundtrack by Stuart Copeland of The Police. I think those are kids waiting for the bus. Anyway, first some updates. I've got a guitar album coming this year. Still practicing guitar as much as I can, almost on a daily basis. It's going to have influences from bands like Van Halen, but it's also going to have influences from games like Afterburner. Good smoke output. So when I was growing up, a guitar sample in a game was amazing. Good examples were Afterburner and the shooter Vapor Trail, if any of you are familiar with those. Sounded like somebody's playing a live guitar, but in fact it was samples. And it was very impressive, so that's an influence here. That's coming down the pipe. A lot of you have been asking about the Jazz Jackrabbit soundtrack. Now, the good folks at Materia, specifically Sebastian Wolf, are doing their best to try to get rights to original game soundtracks. And I really want to see these things published as much as y'all do on Spotify, Apple Music. And surprisingly, people at Epic are amenable to this. It's just the nitty-gritty details of contracts that need to be worked out. So that's what's been going on. Plus, Sebastian has a roster of artists, huge number of people in piano sheet music for games like Metroid that are coming out for the DS versions. So, hard to tell what flavors I'm tasting here. But it's mild. ish. And at last, the bus is here. All right, so what we got going on? Let's talk a little bit about arcades, okay? What made me think of arcades? Well, I read today that GameStop's profits are down 25%, and there's a number of other figures that are involved, but I've been seeing GameStop's going to go bankrupt for the last few years. It might. It's happened to Babbage's, it's happened to Software, etc. It's happened to a number of computer retail stores. They don't seem to do all that well. They don't seem to last. I mean, Best Buy is about the closest thing where you can actually buy computers, but that they've got everything there. And Circuit City went the way of the dodo. So it's not an easy market, right? To sell games on store shelves, even game systems, even though it's an easy way to go get a Nintendo Switch, but so is Amazon. And games are very downloadable these days. Now, for years, I've had the thought, if you want to get people out of the house, don't sell things they can get some other way. Have an experience that they can't experience at home. VR is enabling that. I took my son Connor for his birthday to a local arcade. There they go. Somebody's walking by. And it was kind of a neat green-lit VR room. I don't remember the name of the VR experience, but in fact, I went and I demoed what do you call it? Location-based entertainment VR company that's here in Austin, or I'm in Georgetown, down in Austin. And it made me sick to my stomach, but of course it was in development. So one of the things that we learned on Job Simulator from Alex Schwartz, who was running the company at the time, they're currently run by Devin, who was the lead programmer on Job Simulator, that you need a higher FPS in order to make sure that your senses don't get overwhelmed, or that whatever the tracking that your eyes are doing in conjunction with the frame rate, VR doesn't. The way not to get sick is a higher frame rate. We're talking 90 FPS, not 60 FPS. So, with that in mind, VR is presenting a unique way to do location-based games. And that's what I think we need more of. I think we need a new kind of arcade. Not just walking in and seeing some 80s machines and some pinball machines and maybe like a VR experience that's half-assed. We need something that is big. And something that I've thought of for years is a new mech experience, like Battletech. Used to have pods that they would, it started in Chicago, and then they would travel around, and I still think they have these. In fact, I believe some were at MagFest this year in National Harbor, Maryland. So whoever really grabs the ability to get some decent investment to create a VR mech experience for an arcade, it could be a big hit, because that's something that people can't just get at home, and people need an excuse to get out of the house. Too much has been brought home, in my opinion. I mean, you know, the theater industry is up in arms about Netflix, and of course GameStop is having its woes. So let's get people out of the house into something that they can't just get anywhere else. That's my thought on that. The other thing is, decent flavor, but they're expensive. Would I pay for it again? I don't think so. It's good to try, though. Hardware versus software. Something I saw this morning from a friend and colleague, Jason Graves. Well, more of a colleague. I mean, you know, we've worked together over the years. It's always great to see him and hang out and chat. Really nice guy. Very, very talented. We worked together on Gauntlet 7 Sorrows back when he was part of Red Note Audio with Rod Abernathy. Rod Abernathy is touring playing his own music, and he's quite good at it. He's got some good stuff, so check out his solo album. So Jason said the rule is no VSTs, just outboard hardware gear. And Austin Wintory, another talented composer out there, we worked together briefly on a project for Ready at Dawn. He has a general preference of only using acoustic instrumentation. That's his thing. But when it comes to gear in general, before, like in the 90s, when I was oogling at magazines like Keyboard and Electronic Musician, there were maybe 20 modules for music. EMU, Korg, the usual suspects back then. Now there's 2,000, including all the software stuff. Probably more if you count software. And I gotta wonder, there's still a back and forth where it seems like if it's hardware, it's boutique and unique and better. My opinion, no. Software, hardware, find something that works well, something that you can really dig into. Now, the difference is going to be you. The difference is going to be how much you learn the piece of software or the piece of hardware. And it's so tempting. And you're bombarded on a daily basis with, hey, this new plugin and this new piece of hardware. Companies are all getting into the mix, and there seems to be more of a pie because there's more people interested in music because it's easier to become a bedroom musician. Smooth retrohale. Not peppery. That's the thing about Davidoffs. There's not much pepper. So it's a pretty good cigar. It's I used to really not like mild cigars. I tried a Davidoff 1000 and it was like nothing. This is a little more than that. But again, not for the price. So, as Lee Mac 912 says, not for the price, family. Not for the price. So, hardware versus software. It's great if you have the money to be able to, grab, to have a bunch of API or preamps lined up. Hey, Mary. Taking my dog to see my aunt today. Yeah, she's going to have a visit from my doggy. Yeah, a tool's a tool. Software, hardware, it's whatever you decide to use. And we say this so much, but it cannot be said enough. That get a suite of tools that you really like, or you are attracted to, because you haven't really used it, because you don't have it yet. Grab it, try it, see if you enjoy it, and then move on to something else if you've really tried to dig in and use it well. And that's hard. That's hard for ADD types like myself. It's hard for creative types, typically, to have the kind of discipline to be able to just sink into the tool set and make something cool. Because that is the greatest creative challenge as musicians and in general that we have, is looking outside the tools, being creative with the tools that we have, and sticking to a tool set. It is amazing how creative we can be when we are limited, when we keep ourselves confined, and we restrict ourselves that way. If we continually grab stuff and use it like 10% of its functionality, we don't create as well. I fully believe that. So it's pretty good, family. Yeah, that's the message that I want to have for y'all, is just get a few plugins, or just get one piece of outboard gear and a guitar, get like a good general purpose synth and play with it and make some cool stuff. Use the plugins that come with your DAW and and produce better. There's 8-bit stuff out there like Motorway by Fear of Dark, and the stuff that good old Jake Kaufman does that inspires the hell out of me to make music that's just more inspiring, that's just more powerful. And to that end, the guitar album is going to be my first foray, my venturing outside my comfort zone of just positioning those notes piano roll style the way I've done since the ad-lib days. That's typically been my creative process, but this is going to have some live instrumentation. It's going to be combined with shreddage by the good people at Impact Soundworks, good old Will Roger and Andrew Aversa. Shout out to you. You make some good tools, make some really good instruments, so I'm looking forward to really digging into shreddage, making it sound amazing. Yeah, that's about all I got. 15 minutes in, burning pretty well. But I'm not going to make this long and drawn out, so I'm going to enjoy the rest of this cigar, and y'all have a fantastic day.